Hi everyone and welcome back. This is Sky coming on today to talk to you about one of the periods of time that I have been most excited to talk about this year. We've talked over the last year and a half about some really wild and unprecedented astrology transits that came about from the triple Capricorn conjunction of Jupiter, Saturn, and Pluto throughout 2020 to this grand Aquarius stellium that happened in February. And now we are moving into a very interesting super fluid and spiritual, magical time in March of 2021 and late February as well. I'm going to be talking about the entirety of Pisces season from when the sun goes into Pisces on February 18th. All the way until when it goes into Aries on March 20th. So yes, Pisces season is starting quite early this year, and already by the 18th, when we're coming here for this live premiere, the sun is already indeed in Pisces. So we are already in it, and we are already feeling a lot of different energies coming in. Okay, so I'm going to just kind of speak a little bit about how I feel the energy is coming into this, and then I am going to do 3 chapters in this video. I'm going to go into 3 specific transits in the sky right now that I feel to be important for this season of Pisces, and to be playing large roles and things that we need to consider when working with Pisces energy as compared to these overarching transits. So there will be video chapters below detailing those, and let's go ahead and start about the introduction. Thank you guys so much for being here. For those of you who are new, thank you so much for your subscriptions. It means the world, and it's a great way to support this channel in a totally free way. And there are also links in the description box from my Patreon page to other links which you can use to support this channel, but your likes, comments, and subscribes are the most ultimate way to do so. Okay, so Pisces season. This is kind of like a carnival of very bright, breath of fresh air, yet emotionally relevant experiences coming in that basically revamp our entire sort of spiritual emotional grid. So there is a revamping of the personal spiritual emotional grid in this Pisces season that ultimately is an ending phase for most of us, okay? And I know that we've been hinting around the themes of ending phases here and there over the last few years. Actually, these things tend to ebb and flow quite a lot throughout the natural season system that we go through every year, where we have, months, that go in tandem that deal with endings, and certain months deal with endings that are, water or earth months, and other months that are fire or air months deal with new beginnings and new energetic movements. So we have a natural cycle in place already, but above that monthly seasonal cycle is also a phase, a higher sort of cosm of phases that plays a role as well. And this is kind of the conclusion of a very macrocosmic, in general, long-term ending phase that we've been going through the last 4 or 5 years. And with the end of Pisces season, I think that will really conclude, and we will truly get into a very, very new, invigorating beginning phase with the start of Aries season this year on March 20th. If you haven't already seen my video about the Grand Aquarius stellium, as well as the New Moon in Aquarius video, I would definitely check those out. I'll link them below as well as in the top right-hand corner of this video, because they're definitely an important frame of reference before moving into this next chronological step that we're in. Assuming that you've looked over some of that and kind of have an understanding of what the Aquarius stellium was doing and the huge pivot, huge 180 that many people had energetically in regards to their own personal status quo, with that understanding, it's really now important to basically release it all to some degree, okay? This Pisces season revamps, as I said, our spiritual emotional grid, but it seems to do that through showing us how beautiful our general essence is. So there's a reintroduction to the true essence of you this Pisces season. I know that sounds a little bit like wow, but it is true. Okay, it is true. All that I can say, as I've looked every day in Pisces season, I've looked at every transit, I've looked at all the planets, and we're going to be talking about some individual configurations in a moment. All that I can say is I'm overwhelmed with joy at what I'm seeing. And it's like there is the perfect amount of conflict. Okay, hear me out here. There's the perfect amount of conflict with an interesting Uranus Saturn square that we're having that gives us just enough of a, kind of obstacle to the point that we can only really face our true essence now, to the point that we can only really see our own identity in its most bright, shining capacity. But it's interesting because even though we've had this bright, very, solar Aquarian month previously with an incredibly unprecedented stellium, that super masculine air energy has lingered with a sort of brightness that can still be a little bit blinding to some of us. But we now move into the dark feminine sign of Pisces. And how do we handle all of that energy still lingering? And of course, Jupiter and Saturn are still in Aquarius, and Mercury as well is there. So our mind is still a lot on what we went through last month, though the tide has completely changed. And that's ultimately what this Pisces season does as well. It totally changes the tide. It totally revamps some people's essence. For some people, it's just about meeting their own essence finally. And even if you've worked on this for a long time, even if you've been on like a super spiritual path for a long, long time, I even feel that these types of people truly, finally, at long last, see their essence. And it is really depending on where you stand, either like this just breath of fresh air that you receive from that, or it can also be like a bit of a shock that there could have been like a divergence, or there could have been a real like hyper concentration in an area that was not really evocative of you. And if it's the latter, if you're feeling like a little bit concerned or shocked about where you now stand, I think that this Pisces season does not spare you any love and beauty and happiness. I think that there is everything that we need to basically put up the ending credits. Okay, the ending credits to difficult stories should play during this Pisces season, and we should basically go either into hiatus or into resting phase or into a new frontier and essentially forage anew as Aries season comes in, or we should begin work on the sequel, I suppose. But it really, that's the best that I can explain it. And I'll go more into this once we get to the end of Pisces season. So I'm just going to kind of give you guys a little bit of a sudden end to this point. But this Pisces season is a lot like the ending credits showing for a long, long story. And it just really has to allow that to happen. Sometimes movies end and we don't want the movie to end, or we don't want the series to end, but nonetheless, the credits are playing, and that's something that a lot of us have to wake up to, and we have to think about, what's on the other side of some of these stories that we've involved ourselves in so strongly. What's on the other side of it? What happens after it ends? What happens after it shows itself to be final or finite? Okay. Also, what went into it? When I'm thinking of like ending credits, also I'm thinking of like, what went into making something, what went into producing a certain story. That could become very clear this Pisces season. And it's kind of freaky for some people, actually, especially people who, are very, not too emotionally oriented. So probably not much of us here. I know most of us here are pretty, spiritual, psychologically inclined, interested people. So we're probably, a lot of us are pretty much in Pisces season always to some degree in spirit. But for any of you who have people in your life who have no really emotional context, or are still worried about the emotional portrayal that they have, like, people who cannot like express emotionally, people who are afraid of tears, people who can only feel that happiness is the only emotion that ever is meant to be experienced ever, and if that's not the case, something has gone wrong. People like that, which is actually becoming more prevalent. There's going to be this push toward optimism as well, especially by Aries season, where it's kind of like positivity only, optimism, no pessimism, no, like, it's kind of year of the ox stuff too. So there's going to be like a lot of formation around positive mantras and around positive work ethics and around stuff like that, which is positive in a way, but we also have to be careful with it because it can kind of cause a pent-up, repressed worry to really grow out of control but not be expressed, which plays out in really crazy ways. Before I lose my point, though, I just want to say that as you see what's really gone into things, as you see how you've built things now, you have ultimate power in this Pisces season to measure that against your own identity or against your own new goals, which have probably surfaced, and decide what you want to keep and what you don't. And then ultimately beyond that, enjoy the result that you've found to the degree that it's no longer dependent on how it continues. What do I mean by this? For example, like all I can really relate this to is like fiction or like movies. You get maybe you start to like a character in a movie or in a series, and you get really attached to maybe seeing a certain outcome for a certain character. And then it can be like really upsetting when maybe that character dies or that character does not have that outcome that you really wanted. And then those ending credits play and you kind of see what all went into it. And you're like, okay, this was totally a fictionalized construction. How did I get so attached to that? Again, Neptune and the energy of Pisces rule over all of these things with media or fiction or stories, dream worlds, illusions, Hollywood, any of that stuff is all Neptune and Pisces territory. So I would definitely totally going to a different level with this. Look at your relationship with media. Look at your relationship with like fiction, with stories that aren't a part of your real life, and how connected are you? Also with music, with like how is music motivating you? How is art motivating you? The artists of the world should really flourish in this Pisces season. Like people who've maybe really denied their artistic side might have a total submersion into artistry. That's very possible. And that can go many different ways, even for things that aren't considered so artistic. Even things like, accounting or entrepreneurial endeavors can suddenly take on a new type of artistic and like popular jaunt. So that's an area of progress for many people in this season. And I think that ultimately the theme of voyage is going to be coming up, kind of a Six of Swords. For those of you who are familiar with the tarot card Six of Swords, it's very reminiscent of that archetype to me, where there is really a shift in either location or feeling or even sentimentality about just different things, different aspects of your life. So just prepare for that. Generally coming into Pisces season, a very Six of Swords type of vibe. But anyway, to get into some of the more specific transits that we're having during this season, I'm going to talk about three of the main configurations. So the first configuration I'm going to talk about is the Pisces Stellium that will be happening most strongly on March 10th through 12th, though it's going to be in different levels of effect throughout the entire season. So this is going to consist of the Sun, the Moon, Venus, and Neptune conjunct in Pisces, and I feel really good about what this represents for most people. I feel that this is a wonderful break, or a wonderful sort of, the feeling of hiatus comes up, or the feeling of time away, or time off season, or time out of session. Vacation type of energy comes up, and even if it's not, like particularly a vacation that you're on at this time, there's something needed to express that. There's some type of action I feel needed from most people to express a level of being away or being even aloof to some degree from certain things. And I feel that can be healing. It also feels like, being that Pisces is the 12th and final sign of the zodiac, and we have a stellium here, consisting of inner planet, outer planet, and the moon. What this says to me is that something is really on its last leg too, or that there might be some kind of energetic experience of being very tired, or very also maybe just asleep in regards to certain aspects. But I don't feel this to be particularly negative. If I can try my best to articulate it, it's very difficult to articulate. Pisces energy is kind of like this. It kind of transcends articulation. But it's kind of like the point where something has gone so far, or where something has become either worn out, exhausted, or even done well or cooked for so long to where what can happen afterwards if things keep getting forced, or if things aren't allowed rest, or if things aren't allowed to bloom and blossom into their next form of expression. Basically what you can see is, emotional difficulties, but even like burnout, being that we're moving into Aries season. So I want everyone to be really aware of not at this point is it really being aware of limitations. We should kind of be super cognizant of those by now, and maybe even have overcome those to some degree. It's more of an awareness of essence. I'm going to point back to essence like I was talking about before, and is the current output of energy evocative of your own essence? And if not, how tired is that experience of not evoking your own essence when you know perhaps that things have changed, or perhaps that there's no longer a point of connection. I talked on Patreon the other day in last week's T-Chat all about connecting points, and about how through the Aquarius stellium and into these next few years of very strong Aquarius energy, a lot of what we activate through energetically are connecting points, which basically deal with, areas in life that we feel an energetic reciprocity, where we feel that, okay, I put some in, I get some out, and there's like mutual benefit, things like that. Without a connecting point, things are very nullified in this current paradigm that we're in. It's not always been that way. We've kind of been able in the last few paradigms since about 2015 to really force things to work, to really force a level of ingenuity anywhere, and just build to attain a level of security. It's not going to really work that way anymore. Now we really have to pioneer, especially when Aries season comes, but Pisces season is going to set the motivations for this, to pioneer into what is truly essential to ourselves, okay? And to pioneer into essence, and to not demand that certain things way outside of these paths be now essential just because of continuity, okay? When maybe in fact some things, this is a tender point for this season, but not everything lasts forever and goes on forever. If you can imagine only inhaling, how long can you do that? There's got to be that inhale and that exhale. You can't do either one forever. So acknowledging life cycles, acknowledging continuation versus completion or endings, and understanding when it does. Eventually the Harry Potter series had to come to an end. Eventually, however many books was the limit. And it's interesting also how maybe you can see resurgences now, and starting new series based on old ones, and I'm sort of using this in a metaphorical way in comparison to like what might be really long running series in your own life. At what point in time do things end? At what point in time is there maybe a new project taken on, or a new ideation coming to the forefront? Because this is like the most relevant time in many of our lives, perhaps, to facilitate something like that, to facilitate an ending and then to restart. It doesn't have to be like instantaneous, okay? It doesn't have to be with like the snap of the fingers, although it can be too. Like, you don't have to snap your fingers this Pisces season and be a totally different person, especially when it comes to like your output, so like work and the security, because we're in year of the ox also, and that gives us a desire to maintain the fort, basically. And so in the grand scheme of things, I feel that this year transitions us to that point next year where that has really probably clicked into place. But you can, get ahead with that right now and really try to kind of emphasize this in your life. And basically, for those people who are trusting their motivations after maybe scrutinizing those motivations a lot last year, after really picking and choosing, after discerning a lot about directions, I think that moving forward with trust and not having to worry so much about things is best. And I also think that the theme of sacrifice comes up a lot. I've talked a little bit about this on Patreon too, and I've got to really meditate a little bit more on what this means. But a lot of what Year of the Ox can deal with too is the theme of sacrifice, because bulls and ox and cattle have been very sacrificial animals in relation to humanity's history. So I feel that there is a need for many people to sacrifice something in their lives, and this is also coming in tandem with this like ending credits, and it plays theme, and this plays a huge role in Pisces season this year. So there might, and many of us have already done it, and this can, like I said in that T-chat on Patreon, I'll link that below, but basically a lot of us have already maybe sacrificed addictions or coping mechanisms or things that were negative and shadowy, and are already seeing really good results by now with that. But then we start to question and ask ourselves, does this mean I also have to sacrifice things that I like? It does not mean that. It does not mean that, but it does mean that I think that we have to scrutinize or be really clear that we really like what we're doing. And we can kind of trick ourselves up with that sometimes. Essentially you can get like the good paying job that you hate, where it is like giving back, but it is not something that you really see for yourself in the long term. And that's the type of scrutiny that we might have to really look at now. And, thinking, did it ever take sacrificing my like happiness for money? Things like that are definitely coming up. Not so much right this second, but this Pisces season is going to really, again, through viewing our own essence, through seeing, maybe what we're meant for, or some of the incredible things. It's like, can we get up to speed with it? Aries season on the other side of this, and I won't go too much into it, but just to prepare you, Aries season on the other side of this Pisces season, getting into March and April, is going to like get us up to speed with all of that. And by then there can also be like, I think that this will stretch out over the next year. Only like super unlucky people might have a situation where this is the case, but I just kind of want to throw it out there just so people can kind of understand the severity of the energy that is also at play. So what can be possible with this time is a feeling of too late. Okay. Too late to do that. Too late to a degree, this is illusory. And we then have to look into the boundaries that we're imposing on ourselves and make sure that this isn't like some sort of self-illusion process. But a lot of us, even if it's not valid, only for very few people is this really valid. Like maybe, I guess if you're 95 years old, it might be a little bit too late to, build a new family. There are some like givens in that circumstances, we have to really understand like what we're living for, and like the things that we enjoy most in life need to really be focused and need to be built up, and we have to really try to emotionally remind ourselves in this Pisces season that status quo, money-oriented, sacrificial mindsets are like human hysterias of the past that must be pushed aside for our own enjoyment of this like ultimately quite short life. So what is the value of life force? What is the value of revealed essence? What is the value of our time? Will end up being the grid that is established through how we move through Pisces season. I don't think that we're looking directly at it, but I just really getting esoteric, okay, with this time, and really trying to like give you guys the most concentrated, perhaps more invisible aspect of what we're doing. We are fortifying basically our spectrum of self-value, not just in the emotional sense to ourselves, but in the sense of like the decisions, the material decisions that we make in our lives, and like the jobs that we carry and the titles that we carry and the money that we carry and all that, and how that all corresponds is being webbed together, almost like a spider making a web, and how that all connects is being shaped through that. So something quite esoteric. Okay. I mean, I love this about Pisces season because it always brings in like the deepest stuff, but, I'll let you guys in a little bit of a secret, okay? This Pisces season, if you can kind of reaffirm to yourself that, okay, I want enjoyment in my life, I want purpose, I want, to not feel like I'm selling myself short, or to not feel like I'm trading my happiness for money or things like that. These like harsh things that humanity just cannot seem to get out of. This can just be reestablished through like mantras in this season. And the ideas will come to you. The creative genius is at an all-time high. Like I said, we have very good personal control over the levers of energetic output. So if you don't like that job, if you don't like anything in your life, it's very easy to change it. But I do think that we give ourselves a hard time about it. I really do. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in the next chapter of this video, but I do want to make some concluding points on the Pisces stellium. It's very difficult for me to articulate. Like, I wish I could just like imprint like how I'm feeling about this onto you guys, but let me take another shot at it here. There are times in our lives where we are just placed into a circumstance, and this can be a bit existential, but that circumstance, despite a harshness, has a type of beauty that cannot be digested without a lingering existential experience behind it. People are in different relationships with this. It varies how people kind of recognize this, but the point of it is that I would expect that with this Pisces season. I would expect this Pisces stellium to ask a new question, or to place you into a new environment, or to place you into a situation with a lot. Okay, it's not about lack or scarcity. I feel that people are placed into these situations with a lot of energy, whether that's representing itself through like having love in your life, having, career success, having, style, having beauty, whatever it is. It's like people have something. It's not like they're placed into this situation in a state of lack. It's like people placed into new situations with a state of abundance. And it's really interesting how this changes, because like, for example, you can maybe see like 2016, 2017 as time periods where this might have happened in more of a state of lack, but now there's more of a state of abundance behind it, and it leads people to maybe really envelop or harmonize differently with their environment. So I'm just trying to kind of do some automatic speech around what I'm feeling with this Pisces stellium after the Aquarius stellium, after the 2020 Jupiter, Saturn, Pluto triple conjunction and retrograde cycles of Capricorn. This is chronological, and you're not where you are for any meaningless reason. So if there's a sense of meaningless or a sense of haplessness, that is not really how things are. And I would advise, if you're feeling totally like mute or nullified or monochromatic, to really understand reason. Okay, to really, when I say reason, it's hard to explain this, but like, what tendencies do you have, and how do those tendencies connect to your feelings of personal reason and your feelings of personal purpose? And is there not just a lot of healing happening there that you don't even realize? What an incredible time during this Pisces season to travel, if that's appropriate for your location. I know there are a lot of like regulations and stuff right now, but if it's not physical travel, if it's not like geographical travel, I think traveling through your day in a new way, traveling through your routine, traversing your experiences with a new type of mindset will only give and give to you. Okay. And we have to trust that there's reason behind just the results that we're facing right now. And if the results are not what we would have wished for, I think that it's just about motivating a new pivot, or motivating a new course of action, and re-energizing through what you've done so much, or through your repetitive actions, taking the energy out of that and placing it into the new. We don't really have to linger in this like super difficult halfway state anymore. Okay, it's beautiful. There's like beautiful music around, there's beautiful colors around. Something about this time is very cinematic, okay, and very perfect in certain ways. So try to look at that and see how it can't be maybe redistributed to other parts of your life. And if you can't carry the level of like perfect imperfection with you into some of the next coming chapters, because that feels really nice to me. Okay, that's my very abstract attempt at speaking around the themes of the Pisces stellium. Let's move on to the next topic. Okay, so I'm going to talk briefly about the Uranus-Saturn square happening this month, and this is at different phases of exactness throughout the month. It's basically something that is coming throughout the entire season that we're feeling to some degree. So this is why we feel this strong sense of conflict right now. We have Uranus in Taurus square Saturn in Aquarius. Whenever Uranus and Saturn come into square, this is like a sort of legendary battle or legendary tug of war, okay, between two aspects of you, or between, this can also really channel out through like relationship struggles, like people can create rifts or estrangements or anger between themselves and others, and refuse to see other people's perspectives. It's a very like a refusing energy with Uranus square Saturn. And it depends, obviously, like how relevant this will be to you, depending on like what is transiting in your chart. The Pisces stellium, I think, really takes precedence over this particular square, but it is still important to think about. And I think that this Uranus square Saturn, is really most visible in like the surrounding world, so in a more macrocosmic way. This kind of indicates to me like a financial chaos. This indicates new structures around money, around finance, around sources of value. Money is just a representation of value. It is a human way of controlling value. So what Uranus square Saturn creates is an unexpected role that this controlling of value plays in people's lives. Money will maybe start to do unexpected things, okay? Like I'm thinking like value of money, financial planning, because again, Uranus is in Taurus, so for the entire time that Uranus is in Taurus, all those years, it creates unexpected financial sector issues, and money is not very stable or secure. Uranus in Taurus itself is like such an ironic placement. It's like the fire station burning down type of thing, putting the security-oriented Taurus energy in the unexpected and volatile energy of Uranus is like a lot. And then when you square it with Saturn, it really challenges things, and Saturn really is like, giving Uranus an ultimatum, and it's like, does this kind of sound familiar? This could be how everything is experienced to some degree during this time, is like a feeling of ultimatums, a feeling of like, do it or don't do it, like a feeling of you don't know the value of your life, but you have to figure it out. Like there's sort of like a time limit or an ultimatum, and it's not something that's really given with a clear solution. So Uranus square Saturn means that a clear solution is often not reached. And with the Pisces stellium also, I'm kind of thinking that there's just going to be a lot of blurriness and fogginess. So yeah, we can all, spiritually, we can all be like, oh wow, it's a new year coming on. It is year of the ox. It's like very positive and optimistic. With this combination of transits, I think that while it can be beautifully cinematic, while there are actually a quite sizable collective of people who are totally immune to some of the defects of this financial chaos, that's interesting, and something to talk about for sure. I will say that there's no controlling things right now. Like this year of the ox, very control oriented, very like amount oriented. What amount of money, what amount of value, how much time will it take, what year do I do this, very rigid goals, things like that coming up, especially off the back of the previous Capricorn transits of 2020. And then now that's no longer actually relevant, but we're still kind of out of habit pursuing these types of things. So there has to be flexibility, there has to be trust, there has to be adaptability, and please, if you can, do not get over-focused, while also not completely negating or denying or unfocusing yourself on matters of value and finance. Okay, it's it's a tough time to have like a career in finance or a career in banking or a career in like stocks or something, like something dealing with markets or something, even dealing with like companies, business owners. It's not an easy time, okay? And I think that what this Uranus-Saturn square demands is new sources of value, yes, but I'm not talking about like new businesses or like new sources of money. That's not what I'm referring to here. I mean, that can be done too, like really well. But what I'm referring to here is like the value of someone's presence, the value of a relationship, the value of like emotional ease, the value of good, healthy coping mechanisms, the value of leaving addictions behind, the value of showing yourself what you really want and trusting yourself enough to follow through with it. These are sources of value that like sometimes like millions of dollars cannot touch. So it's like really good. And what I'm just trying to do, I'm trying to facilitate something that should be somewhat simple to us by now. And that's to like get out of this really toxic correlation with money, or this really toxic worship of money. Okay. That's something that, yes, can make you a lot of money. But I'm just curious, like we're having a huge polar vortex where I'm at right now with like winter weather that's really intense. And I'm just curious about like what a lot of money in a bank account can do for that, like I'm just curious about what a huge bank account can do to, keep somebody warm, I'm curious about like when someone questions or has existential questions in their mind about like the value of their life, or about the the enjoyment that they have or have not had in their life. I'm curious what a huge bank account does for that, And of course, money is required to live in our current system. It's not about forging a problematic relationship with money, but I'm just really trying to focus on one specific thing that's saying, like, do not fool yourself about what money can and cannot do also. It's a really big part of this ox year, of this Uranus-Saturn square, and about healing and getting yourself out of a few problems in the future by just nipping this in the bud now. That's what I would say that ultimately this Uranus Saturn square that we have happen throughout this year is going to do during a year of the ox, is it's going to really heal up through conflict, perhaps, many of our difficult relationships with value in life. And that's not just money, okay? Because if you really deconstruct value, you'd be surprised where that ends up within like different parts of our lives. It's certainly much more complex than money, or, the material world, or houses, or cars, or, stores. This is all a very superfluous sideline expression of value, and most of the time it compensates for a lack of it somewhere else. I think that being that it's year of the ox in a 2-year, we have to really look at how we're connecting with other people, also with Aquarius, 11th house, other people. One-on-one relationships need to perhaps be a bit more of a source of value instead of such a headache, okay? I feel like since I've started this channel, we look at like sometimes like the difficulty of relationships, and those are there. So I think that many of us would not attribute our personal relationships as valuable, or, mark them as valuable. Though I would rethink that now, and I would think about, it's just food for thought, really, kind of coming out as automatic speech. This is what Pisces season does to me. It like just sends me into like automatic speech mode. But like, there's a lot more value there than we're thinking. Okay. So just food for thought. Anything else that I want to talk about for Uranus-Saturn squares? I have written down battles, trials, aversions, and old versus new. Okay, so the old versus the new is a big thing with it, especially being that it's in Aquarius and Taurus. Okay. What is a new innovation? Like, some of us need like an upgrade with this transit too. A lot of us can be battling old worn out things, old worn out houses, old worn out cars, old worn out stuff. And that does then lead us back into like, okay, are we ready to like purchase, and like, how can we, have enough to do that? So I see how this can be like a tough situation. It's very indicative of a square, isn't it? For those of you who might not know, the square, the 90-degree angle in astrology, is typically the most conflict-oriented angle. So it's just a part of this, and it's a part of, I think, like the chaos and chaotic seeds that we've planted over the last few years when it comes to what we think gives us an amount of security in our lives. So that's basically what's being revamped right now. Okay, and the Pisces stellium will do well to help us heal some of those wounds. Okay, and the last transit that I'm going to talk about is the Mercury-Jupiter conjunctions that are happening in Aquarius. Saturn does also get near it at various times throughout the month, but right on March 4th of 2021, okay, we're having a perfect Mercury-Jupiter conjunction, and this really helps to offset things, totally changing the tone. There are creative solutions. And this happening at the same time as the building Pisces stellium says to me that there is no such thing as a limitation right now. Take this with a grain of salt. I'm kind of being hyperbolic here, but this is a very unlimited feeling. Jupiter, Saturn, Mercury in Aquarius, Sun, Venus, Neptune in Pisces. This feels unlimited. This feels totally extra human, like outside of the human void, outside of the human world. It's very void energy. This to me feels like, oh my God, Pandora's box type of stuff. This feels like, wow, I finally see who I am, what I represent. I finally got to know myself. I finally sat down with me and got past all the minutia and totally just overcame a previous existential crisis. And now I feel a sense of value just in my stasis, just in my static being, that totally outweighs income or anything like that. And then it's really cool, the reciprocity here, where through eliminating that previous blockage and taking a more unlimited, okay, viewpoint onto your potential, you can like totally ascend past previous money wounds that lead you to not focus on money yet have like way more of it. And it's like cool how easy things can be if we let it. But if we get, it's feeling to me that if we get too focused on it though, or if we get too centric, like too centered on the value aspect of it, that we somehow deprive ourselves more. Okay. So it's not to like over focus and get like super, like OCD about, but like just kind of knowing and sitting and making things easier, attracting ease, income perhaps comes easier, and try to not make it too complicated. Also, okay, Mercury, Jupiter conjunction in Aquarius. It's retrograde in the beginning, and then it goes direct. Of course, Mercury is going direct on February 20th. It stations there for a few days, and, building up to March 4th, it moves to conjunct with Jupiter. So that whole time from around February 20th to March 4th is like initiating that process of getting up to speed, like I talked about. And that may take until we get into Aries season for everybody to like really feel like they're up to speed. But revelations, like whoa, I'm feeling like whoa, I did not realize what I was contributing to. And my feeling with the Mercury-Jupiter conjunction is that there is a constrictive mindset or a constrictive lens that I think is prevalent for all of us in regards to the way that we navigate our own lives and the freedoms we give to ourselves, and the point at which we accept defeat or surrender some type of personal progress that is asked to expand. So Mercury and Jupiter actually don't like to come into conjunction. Mercury is debilitated in Jupiter's sign, Jupiter is debilitated in Mercury's sign. So when they come into conjunction, kind of like the Uranus-Saturn square, there's a feeling of conflict, there's a feeling of structural chaos, there's a feeling of feeling that expansion or contraction neither are the answer. So it's like indecisiveness at the end of the day. So as we talk more and more about this Pisces season, I understand that we have a lot of transits that are feeling imperfect, but that's going to be okay. The Pisces stellium is the perfect offsetting, fluid, flexible, creative, beauty-oriented energy to move through this, okay? It's kind of just a matter of letting the time pass and letting the new wave that we've been talking about build and create a new type of reality for you without needing to get too hands-on, but it's not bad to get hands-on either. But there will be positive ways that the Jupiter-Mercury conjunction plays out. I definitely think so. They both like the sign of Aquarius, so there is a sort of common ground. There's a feeling of like common ground also being found this month. And my ultimate feeling, so sort of bringing everything together here, is that the Pisces stellium, moving from having that huge Aquarius stellium in February to Pisces stellium in March, the Pisces stellium is not as big or as grand as the Aquarius stellium was, but it's still sizable. If we can kind of see the beauty of the realizations that we're having, or see the beauty of the artistic endeavor, or the artistic tone that even some like really tough experiences take, there is some source of energy within that is essential in really building in the future, or really platforming off of this time. I know it's abstract. I know it's kind of hard to understand, but that is the energy of Pisces, is an unseen, abstract essence even in a difficult situation, emerging as some type of self-unification process. So essentially someone going through a traumatic experience and becoming a trauma counselor and providing a lot of value to other people because of that experience. And then eventually maybe they are not locked into that anymore. And that then turns into something much more grand or much more macrocosmic, even, where they maybe become well known in a collective because of that very individual work that they did after evolving from a traumatic experience. So it's like evolutions, okay? So evolving from trauma to trauma counselor to like, what do I want to say? Like figurehood of trauma reconciliation or something. Like there's like this like structured process that keeps going through like commitments of time. And nothing really commits us that much this season, though. It's not about commitments in Pisces season, but it is really about abstractions. Okay, I know this is all abstract. It is about seeing the wider sphere and the wider fantasy that is like this experience of this time, the cleansing fluid and sort of fantastical slipping away of previous essence, making way for a new and grander version of yourself is as best as I can put it. So anyway, everyone, I hope that you really enjoyed this sort of long approach to the Pisces season that we're going through in 2021 from around February 18th till March 20th. I've talked about 3 of the main transits, and if you enjoyed it, leave me a comment. Let me know what you thought of this video. Let me know if what methods you might have about traversing this kind of tricky but beautiful time. And if you enjoyed it, if you're new, hit that subscribe button, hit the thumbs up button as well, and share it with someone you love or someone you would like to show, this sort of like deep Pisces season explanation. I have a lot of links in the description box that you can support the channel through. I'm on Patreon. I do weekly teach-outs that are just on Patreon, which are super valuable. Do check that out. And I have a few other links as well that you can find. See if you like anything. It helps to support the channel, and that will be linked below. Thank you so much, everyone. I hope you enjoy this time. Good luck. I'm sending you a lot of love for this time. And thank you so much for the kindness and support that has been this YouTube channel. It's really wild that it is still going and that it has been what it is. And I'm just very appreciative for everyone here. And we're also on Discord too. Like we have a Discord community that we always talk on, and that's really a nice and fun valuable thing that we have come together as a community and created. So check that out. I'll link it below. Lots of stuff below. I appreciate it, everyone. Enjoy this time. I will also, okay, side note. It's like talking on the phone with that person who like never gets off there. They like say goodbye and they're like, okay, hold on, there's one more thing. That's how I feel right now. So I'm only doing 2 more live premieres in this season. I've been doing live premieres for like a few months now, every Friday, and I'm ready to go on a bit of a hiatus with that and get back to the drawing board, think of some more content. But I will be doing them for the next 2 Fridays, so I believe that's looking like until March 5th. To do Friday live premieres. So 2 more. Be sure to come and check it out. We enjoy our time in community, and I also then spend time on the Discord after live premieres, and we all talk and share experiences, and that's just so wonderful and so valuable. And it's a totally free way. Like here on the live premieres, totally free, totally fun. The Discord is totally free. Like there are ways that you can support this channel. Beyond that, if you like, but it makes me so happy to provide something that is ultimately free and ultimately accessible, universally accessible to some degree. Okay. Assuming that the internet maintains itself, which I am also in a very wintry polar vortex of some kind right now, some type of winter weather. I'm not a meteorologist, but there have been some warnings of potential power outages. So I will definitely keep you guys posted as much as I can. And maybe even by the time this is premiering, all of that will be over. But I hope that you feel happy and that you are not as concerned as you might have felt in the past about the forward momentum. I really think that things will get better. But anyway, everyone, thank you so much. Have a great weekend. It's all below. Talk to you soon. Bye.